Oh, hello there. You just caught me polishing my Thor's hammer. Greetings and welcome to the channel, Northworthy Sagas and Stories. I am your host for the day. I am Bragi, and yes, as you may know, I am the son of Magnar. Now, today we are here for another story, another folk tale, and we all love a good folk tale on this channel. And the folk tale is an Italian one, and it's called The Value of Good Clothes. And perhaps at the end we may talk about Viking clothing. Now, once upon a time, in the land of Italy, a long time ago, in fact hundreds and hundreds of years ago, in the early Middle Ages, there was a man. And this man, well, he had a name. His name was Gautha. And, well, one day, he was going to walk out to one of his neighbours. He was going to go and knock on the door for some reason at their farmstead, at the longhouse. But on this occasion, he was walking out down the road, and he was all dressed in very rough and raggedy clothes. In fact, he looked very, very poor. In fact, you could almost say that Gautha had his most poorest clothes on that day. And he'd been walking for, an hour. In those days, people lived farther apart. And he came to the farmstead, and he was just walking up, and there were some people gathered outside. And they saw, from the distance, that there was a shabby-looking man walking up. And at first, kind of didn't know what to make about this, They was all talking to themselves. Well, who do you think this raggedy man is, this shabby man? And the other said, well, we don't want that sort round here, do we, lad? And so they got the dogs out and released the dogs on him. And very quickly, our man of this tale, Gautha, he found himself running as fast as his legs could carry him away from the dogs. And luckily, he was a fast runner, and he did so. And some time went past, a couple of hours, and he managed to get back home to his farmstead, to where his mother and his father lived. His father was out that day, chopping down a tree, and he couldn't go talk to him about what happened, so he went to see his mother. He said, Mother, I've been to the neighbours. The ones out there on the hill, a couple of leagues away, and as I was walking up, they released the dogs on me, and I had to run away for my own life. I thought I was going to die. And well, the mother heard about this, and by this time of her life, she was old and very wise, and she said, well, you probably dressed too poorly, and they probably thought you were somebody else. I tell you what, we're going to get out all your fine clothes, and then you can walk there straight away. So this is what happened. His mother went to her chest, and she got out some very fine Viking clothing, like I'm wearing, although being Italian, he wasn't a Viking. So, fine wool with embroidery, bit of silk, some fine wool trousers in a very nice wool pattern, and even those trousers had a bit of embroidery on, and well, he looked like he could be a prince. He was so finely dressed, and so very reluctantly he agreed to walk round to the neighbours again, fearful that they may send the dogs out on him. And so he'd been walking down the road, and he came to the hill to where the farmstead stood. And he walked up. And this time there was no people outside of the longhouse, the farmstead. He managed to get up to the door. He was surprised by that. He thought by now the dogs would chase him away. And he knocked on the door, repeatedly, quite loud, and some people who lived there answered the door, and they were surprised to see such a handsome, finely dressed man. In fact, they thought that somebody special and very powerful had came along to visit them, and they had a massive ceremony. They went out and butchered a cow and a pig, and they roasted them. They bought from the cellar the finest wines and the finest of beers. And they had some very nice cider from Francia. They had some cheese. They had the finest of food, and our man, Gopher, well, he never ate so fine at the table. And first of all, he filled it up his stomach. He filled his stomach up so he could not move. But, you know, he had some pockets in the inside, so he started to put a bit of meat in there, some pastries in the other pocket. And then he had some other, he had a pouch, so he got some more food in there. And he said, "Oh, this is so fine. Eat my clothes, for you were invited." And that's what happened. The end of the tale. And this is one of those tales with a confusing ending. Eat my clothes, for you were invited. You tell me. But let's talk about clothing for a brief minute before we end this video. Now, in the Dark Ages, all your clothes had to be handmade. Now, I'm wearing some very fine trousers, as I would say breeches, and it would take up to 13 miles of thread to make these trousers. So imagine the amount of work a lady or a group of ladies have to do to make one pair of trousers. So you can understand why the richer you were, the more colourful you were. I am a wealthy Viking, so I can afford the best of clothing. And we have filmed a few videos on Viking clothing, and we are going to be filming some more in the future, including on some Rush Viking clothing, so watch out for that, folks. And let's talk about dyes, because, you know, you don't just go and buy wool in a colour, you have to dye it. So people had a lot of knowledge on dyes, and it's something I've got to read up on a little bit more on. Somewhere I have an excellent book on dyeing in the Middle Ages, but I cannot find it. So until we meet again, I do urge you to leave a comment. We do love your comments on this channel, and I will personally reply. And if you are new, then consider subscribing. By subscribing to this channel, you'll be helping out an old Viking called Egil. And in the old words of Egil, stay groovy, folks.